Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon to talk about creating stellar customer experiences. I am Sarah Robinson, and I'm thrilled to be sharing the stage with this clearly rock star panel. And what I'd like to do is ask each of them to take a couple of minutes and introduce themselves to you. And also, before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of how to create a stellar customer experience, I'd love for you guys to share just one or two benefits that you've seen by focusing your own energies or helping your clients focus on creating a stellar customer experience. You know, why should people want to do that? So let's start.
My name is Aaron Bada. I'm the head of customer experience at Tuft & Needle. For those of you unfamiliar with Tuft & Needle, we are a Phoenix-based mattress company. We were born online, and we continue to operate online. One thing that we have really seen from focusing on customer experience as one of our main values is the amount of information that we get from our customers when they're engaged with. It's something that's so important. It's been so important for our ability to serve them, to understand what customers expect from us. It's been very important in being able to iterate on our product by focusing on specific areas that customers are looking for improvements in. And also it's really allowed us to look to new ways to bring brand promoters. So we found that when you do offer a stellar customer experience, you're able to do more than just get promoters from people who are really happy with the product, but people who are happy with the entire buying and even returning process. So we're able to turn people who might not stay customers, people who might want to return our product, but still keep them promoters of the brand. So those are things that I found.
That's great. Barry?
So my name is Barry Moltz. I get small businesses unstuck. And Sarah knows I'm so much into customer service because I really believe that customer service today is really your only sustainable competitive advantage. Hashtag NextCon 16. Because we offer products and services that are very, very similar. Like in one parts of my life, I'm a motivational speaker, and there's some incredible motivational speakers you've seen even at this conference, like Guy Kawasaki and Mike Michalowicz.
What do you mean even at this conference?
At this conference, you see incredible people. And so why should they really choose me? Well, when I go out and I become a speaker for a conference, I'll meet with the organizers. I'll talk to people that are going to attend the conference ahead of time. I'll get there early. I'll talk to the audience. I'll speak. I'll stay there late. By giving them great customer service, they remember me. You separate yourself out from everybody else that, quite honestly, is giving lousy service. And Sarah, I think you feel better that you've actually made a difference in your customers' lives.
Great.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Micah Solomon, and I'm a business person myself, but in terms of this panel, what I do is I am a customer service consultant. There actually aren't a whole lot of us, but what we do, that's the royal we, what I do is help customers improve their experience for their customers in turn. And the nice thing that I want to say is that companies that come to me generally are providing pretty good service. They really are. The ones that blow don't actually realize it, and they don't realize how important it is. So if you're thinking, and I can name names, but not right now. So if you're actually thinking about improving your customer service, you're probably already doing pretty well. But pretty well's not good enough anymore. We used to be in the Mad Men era, and we had the 4 Ps. You guys remember that? Some of you may have seen this on the History Channel. Product, place, right. So they all start with P. You'd always forget at least one of them. What it really meant was you could take a big pile of money, you could hire Don Draper, Peggy Olson, and they could sell anything. They could convince people, and this is true, they could convince people that Lucky Strikes were good for their throat. And once you hired these people, your work was done. Your work was done. It's not like that anymore. You remember the lonely Maytag repairman, right? So that was brilliant marketing. But today, if you're thinking of buying an appliance, you would see whether the Facebook site for I Hate Maytag has more hits or the Facebook site for We Love Maytag. So the humans who provide the customer experience really are the marketing today.
Great.
Yaniv Mazjetti, superstar.
So I'm Yaniv Mastretti, and I lead NextEva's marketing efforts. And one of the founding principles of NextEva was this concept of amazing service. We came into NextEva in an industry, business communication industry, that was notorious for negative customer experiences and even more importantly, bad employee experiences and bad company cultures. And when we started, we knew for us to grow, especially lacking the budgets of some of these larger telecom companies, it was so important for us to really invest and focus on culture, but then also amazing service. And it's one of those things. First, it costs a lot of money to acquire a customer. But even more important, a negative experience, even one experience, can cause you to lose a customer. So customer service is key and ultimately can help drive growth. And that's important.
And I think that's really the important part, Sarah, because it used to be that you could hire, as Micah was saying, a fancy advertising firm. You'd hire a celebrity, and they would tell you why you should like their product. Now we're talking to all the other customers that use the products, and if you don't treat your customers right, Yaniv, they're not going to tell a very good story, and so you're not going to have customers for long.
Right.
Totally agree. I'm curious because clearly the benefits that you all have set out, everyone should want this, right? Everyone should want to create a stellar customer experience so that they can have all of these great benefits. What do you think the biggest challenge or the biggest hurdle to creating that kind of customer service is? Why doesn't everybody have it?
So I think that the biggest challenge that we certainly face, and the biggest challenge, I think, in providing that great customer service, having it be an ongoing thing, is the fact that you have to grow. And when you grow, that means that you're dealing with new challenges. And especially when you're growing rather explosively, as many of the companies here have been, you have to hire very well, and you have to hire people whose values really align with your companies. And when you start out and you have a company that isn't so large, you're able to really focus on the initial values, but continuing to have that when you grow can be a real challenge.
I also think, Sarah, it's hard, right? I think we're so busy. I think, as you were saying, we're so busy bringing customers in through the front door, we forget about the customers we already have. They're escaping out the back door. The second thing is that you've got to really care. Like, I know the folks think, Steve, you really love your customers. And a lot of companies, they pay lip service to loving their customers. You've got to love your customers, and you have to train your staff to love the customers and give them rewards for it, show them this is exactly what to do. And I know they do this a lot at NextEva, where they really train people on how to offer amazing service, right?
Right. And I would also say that you also sometimes can't teach customer service skills, right? So the hiring is so important because it's natural, right? Some people are social and want to help and care about others, and those are the types of people that
and we'll do backflips in the backgrounds of videos.
Exactly, exactly. You've probably seen those, and that's what you want. You want people that are passionate about helping others in the community, not people that don't like to talk or provide exceptional customer service. You don't want them in a customer service position because they represent your brand.
I think that's a really interesting point, that when you're starting to think about how to design a fantastic customer service team, is it starts before the training. It starts in the hiring process. Right. And you've got to be thinking about it that far ahead. Is you've got to screen well, right?
Well, the head of Nordstrom sales, they don't have like a packaged training program that other companies can buy, and people are always asking them, who trains your salespeople here? And one of the Nordstrom brothers said, their parents.
I love that. Because as Micah said, Sarah, it really comes down to the DNA of the company. It comes down to your culture. Do you really love your customers? Because if you have chat going on inside your company where you're making fun of your customers, you're criticizing your customers, that's a bad thing, and you really got to change your culture so that doesn't happen.
Well, you can't give away what you don't have, right? I mean, it's very difficult if you don't have a really solid internal customer experience, and all of your employees are your internal customers. If you don't have a solid internal customer experience, it's almost impossible to give away a really good customer experience, right?
We also kick the cat, right?
Yes.
If we don't treat our employees and the people that work with us well, they're not going to treat our customers well.
Correct.
It's just a simple fact of that.
Yeah.
So
I agree
let's
with
talk
that.
about that for a second, because I will get proposals to improve a company's customer service. And then they say, well, you know, everyone who works here is a customer too. So let's just talk about that for a second. So there's internal customer service, there's external customer service. But they're not exactly the same. They're not exactly the same, and this is where people get messed up, because you can be less formal with the people in your company, you can speak the same jargon, and then when you're working with external customers, you need to speak what I call English, right? You can't use your abbreviations and such. So they're similar, but they're not identical. But Sarah, you're exactly right. If employees are being abused or abusing each other, it's never going to work.
You can give them all the right scripts all day long, and
Right.
it's not gonna work.
Now, Yaniv, you are a legendary interviewer. Can you give us a couple of your tips?
I mean, I would
But
say,
I mean, without-
from an internal customer service perspective,
Oh, okay.
I would say that we do some things that are quite different. You know, Thomas mentioned, you know, communication is a major problem in most organizations yesterday. But as part of communication, one thing that we're really passionate about is video at Nextiva, and every Friday we focus on a TV show called Next TV. Our video team spends quite a bit of time actually focusing on internal videos that we don't even publish to our customers or to the public. And we spend a few hours every week making an SNL-style news show. And it's awesome.
It's been a funny year.
Yeah. What's that?
Funny boohoo.
But you know, it's really helped us a lot, because internal communication, I think, is so important to keep everyone on the same page. And fast-growing companies or any companies of any size, you know, communication is so important. And Next TV has been a great solution for us to keep everyone on the same page, because as we know, people don't read emails sometimes, and you know, communication gets lost. Another thing we do from a communication standpoint, specifically at Nextiva, that's probably our best form of internal culture building and communication, is bathroom signs. So when people are at the urinal or you know, in the bathroom, and it's a captive audience, but it allows us to you know, spread, you know, an important message, and everyone.
So you just put
hears it.
signs up.
We put signs up every day. We update, sometimes twice a day.
Good low-tech solution, right?
It is a low-tech solution. Well, I love that, because that was what I was going to ask next. So we've touched on a little bit about hurdles, but so what are some solutions because I'm sure everyone in this room has different challenges to creating this, or they wouldn't be in here to learn more. So what are some of the best solutions that you've seen? Any of you just shared probably the best ever. What are some of the solutions that you guys have seen that can help people sort of overcome these challenges?
Well, I think we should be careful. I think everyone here said kind of like be nice and then like be way nice and hire really nice people. So sadly, it's not that simple. I mean, you could be as nice as you want.
Right.
And if you don't have the resources, or you don't have the technology right, or you don't have you heard of this new thing called NextOS? If you don't have clear communication with your customer and about your customer, then this stuff isn't going to work. So it's smiles, and I think we just talked mostly about smiles, but it's also systems. So I just want to get that in there as well.
Well, and I think too, I mean, and systems don't necessarily have to be really complicated. I mean, many customers, great customer service organizations, there's a person, there's a phone, there's a pen and a piece of paper, because they haven't quite grown big enough for Nextiva, but they're getting there.
Okay.
But so, you know, so I think but it's to your point, it's not just smiles. It's you still got to have a system. You still got to, even if it's a pen and a piece of paper, you've got to know what your system is for how you're going to keep track of who you've talked to and what they need and how, you know, how you're going to best serve them.
Sarah, even for a system, I believe you have to have a customer service manifesto. Has anybody ever been to Legal Seafood? Mm-hmm. Right? You sit there, and the placemat is actually their customer service manifesto. And some of the things that they talk about is, you know, we'll always greet you with a smile. We'll always, you know, make sure that you're satisfied. They have a list of 10 different kinds of things, and you have to get those values those cultures inside your company, and then based on that, based on what you stand for, then you create the process out of it. But I think up front, you should tell your staff, this is our customer service manifesto, and then share it with your customers so you're really on record saying, this is what we're going to do. And when you catch yourself not living up to one of those customer service manifestos, somebody should point that out.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually one thing that we are so focused on is making sure that our customers do understand that transparency is incredibly important, and a great experience is very important, and that's something that we do try and shift internally as well. I think that you can't speak enough about how important company culture is, and I don't think you can have a positive company culture like you were saying before, or you can't have great customer experience without having a very positive customer culture. And that's why we hire based on values first, and then we can kind of teach the position. Like you said, you can have a great customer experience team that just has a phone and a pen and paper, and you can teach the things they're actually going to do, but you really have to hire the people that have the values that you try and embody and show your customers that you have.
Attitude over skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
For sure.
and you can't teach, often you can't teach attitude. You've got to
Right.
hire for it, right?
Yeah, because the majority of NextEva employees, whether it's the initial team and even as we grow, don't have telecom experience or business communication experience. But exactly, we hire for the values and focus on the things that you can't teach, because through training you can learn, business practices and industry technologies.
It was funny, Sarah, I was once flying, well, I'm always flying, but I was flying next to, on American Airlines, the guy that trains the customer service of all American Airlines. He goes, why does everyone hate us? And I said, do we have enough time? I think we're on delay. And he goes, and I said, because your communication stinks. Well, I used the word stink. I used another word. But your communication stinks. You don't communicate with people. And I think a big part of customer service, at least external, is communicating with your customer. Have empathy. Say you understand. You don't have to necessarily agree with them, but say you understand their point of view. I think if we communicate, if we have empathy, that's a large part of it. That's at least where to start.
I completely agree with that. You all each bring such a unique perspective to the conversation about customer service. What I would really love, and I think the audience might also enjoy, I'd love to hear one great customer service story. And it doesn't have to be good, it could be good or bad, but I'd love to hear one great customer service story that you guys would like to share.
Sure, so we, at Tuft & Needle, we don't offer any discounts or sales. One of the main things that that's very important to us is that all customers are getting the same price when they pay for mattress, whether it's now
So when
or
you
on
told me
Cyber
you'd
Monday.
hook me up,
Don't listen to them. So that all customers do pay the same price. But sometimes we do get really great stories from customers and oftentimes with companies when they get these great stories and they are customer focused, what they try and do is reward their customer with giving them a certain dollar amount off of an order, whatever it is. We had somebody from Oklahoma. He was 7 years old, and his mother 7. Yeah, his mother emailed in and said that he had been making cat buttons, which is exactly what it sounds like. They're buttons with pictures of cats on them, and selling them to save up for his mattress because his mother was teaching him to the value of $1 and to pay for his own mattress.
So if he didn't make enough of these cat buttons, he was like going to be sleeping on the sidewalk?
I'm sure that she was helping him too. And so she wrote into us with this story and telling us why he chose cat buttons, that he was he was very interested in making sure that the animal welfare was something that was taken care of, something that was very near and dear to his heart. And so instead of refunding the price of the mattress, because it was a pretty incredible story, we actually donated $350, which was the price that him and his mother paid for the mattress, to the Oklahoma Humane Society in his name. And we were rewarded with a box of about 100 cat buttons at our office, and pretty much everybody
You have them for all of us today.
next time.
That's great. That's a great story.
One of the stories that I always tell, and my son Daniel hates when I tell the story, but we went to his favorite restaurant. I always liked this special pita bread. And at this particular restaurant, we went there. They happened to be out of his special pita bread. So I went to the waitress and I said, listen, might we really come here for the pita bread? Do you think you should get some more? She goes, I'll see what I can do. She called their other location, which is in Chicago. They put a box of pita bread in a taxi, brought it over to the location where we were at, and served it to my son on a silver platter. And I thought that was really great.
Great.
And we've gone back there tens of times now.
That's
So I
great.
love that service story. And I've told that story about 1,000 times too. So it really worked out well for them.
Let me tell a story from. So I just finished writing a book called The Heart of Hospitality. I think some lucky people want it here. I just don't know who. But one of the places that's featured is right near here. About how far do you think it is from here, Dove Mountain?
About an hour and a half.
Okay, so it's somewhere out in the desert, and I don't know from the desert.
Near
but
Tucson.
Near Tucson. It's called Dove Mountain. It is a Ritz-Carlton resort. And it's an amazing place. So not long before I was there, there was a little boy who had lost his Thomas the Tank Engine. Now, if any of you have kids or ever were kids, you know that.
Check.
What's
It's a big deal. Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, so it's the most anthropomorphized toy possible. It's not just a locomotive. He has a whole personality and everything. So this family was getting ready to leave Dove Mountain, and why are people hissing? Is that something I should know about?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was a escape steam kind of sound. So they were leaving, and the mom went to the restaurant there and found the first employees that she could find and said, look, my son lost his locomotive. So they looked around a little bit, but it's a big place. They said, look, don't worry about it. We'll find Thomas. Just don't miss your plane. Go. So these two young guys who worked there, they realized very quickly they were not going to find Thomas. So without having to ask permission of a manager or anything, they drove to town, which is a long way, right? It's a long way to town. They bought a dead ringer of Thomas. They brought him back, and a couple days later, this family got Thomas in the FedEx. But not just Thomas. They got a letter written in the voice of Thomas.
That's Thomas.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barry Moltz. Was that your Thomas?
That was Thomas calling.
They got this FedEx package, and not only did it have Thomas in it, but it had a bunch of pictures and a letter from Thomas saying, sorry I gave you guys a scare. I needed a couple extra days of rest and relaxation. And these pictures were of him in a chef's toques working in the kitchen, folding the napkins, encountering some scary lizards in the desert. Now, it's very creative, it's very clever, but the one thing that you might not have noticed about this story, these guys are frontline employees. They didn't have to ask anyone's permission. They didn't have to take the $50 out of their paycheck. It is considered your job at the Ritz-Carlton to be empowered. It is your job. If they didn't find these excuses to spend the Ritz-Carlton's money in creative ways, it would be looked down on. So I think that's why that's a special story.
That's a great story.
That's a really good story. And one thing we do at NextDiva is we get a fair amount of customers contacting us via social media, particularly Twitter, but also Facebook, asking for help. And very often, pretty early on, because we had such an interest in video, when we started doing NextTV, we came up with the idea of it's not always easy to explain the answer just by typing. What if we have a person in customer service or person in the organization that can answer the question, make a video and we'll reply to the tweet or the Facebook post via video rather than text.
Right.
So, we do this quite often, almost every day. We receive a message and we post videos. But there was one music studio in Brooklyn that posted a question, and we realized that they were into rap. So we had a NextDiva, employee who was also a rapper on the side, do a freestyle rap of his answer, and ultimately, that we shared that with the NextDiva customer, and ended up being very positive for us from the standpoint of the customer was happy. He also shared it with his audience, and we got a few press articles out of it. So it was unique,
is
but
so cool.
yeah, fun.
These videos that they do, even when they're not rapping, are really effective, I
Yeah.
would say.
I believe so.
I mean,
yeah.
I saw one where Nextiva was essentially saying to the inquiry on Twitter, no, we don't offer that, but you did it in such a nice way that it really got there.
Yeah. There's even times where people that aren't using our service but using a competitor contact us and asking us for help, and we'll do our best to help them. Even if you're not a Nextiva customer, we want to help.
You guys you really do a great job. One time I was supposed to be at Nextiva and I got so sick I couldn't get on a plane, and I got the sweetest video. They made me a get well soon video, which was just really fun. They sang me a song and everything. It was great. So, and video, the thing that I love about video is it's not an expense. You can make a great video with your iPhone. This is not something that, I mean, I know you guys have more than your iPhone, but
we started Next TV, which is the weekly show. We started it on the camera of a laptop. And
you just carry the laptop.
There was no movement. It was just sitting at a desk, like news desk style, making an announcement, and ultimately evolved to being much more as our video team grew. But in the early days, it was just every Friday at lunchtime, we would release a video of 2 to 3 minutes in length talking about what's going on in the company. Via a MacBook Pro camera.
That's fantastic. And so I think that's just such a great thing because anybody can do video.
Right.
Anywhere. It's not a complicated thing, and it's such a great medium, and it makes people feel really, really special when you do that.
Sure, I think it's also much more personal, right?
Yes.
And we saw from Kobe this morning, people really want to be served personally, like it's directed just at them, because then it engages them, and so you have more of a chance of keeping that customer.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I know people are here who are really looking for ways to either start implementing or build on what they already have to develop this stellar customer service experience. And I wonder if you all could just share 1 or 2 concrete ideas, takeaways, that when they leave here, they know what to do, so they walk out with something they can implement or a conversation they can have as soon as they get home.
So one thing that we do that I think is really important is our entire team on day 1, before they start their regular role, whether they're in marketing or engineering or whatever it is, everybody goes through 2 weeks of customer experience training. So everybody in our company knows how to respond to emails, to take calls from customers, to chat with customers, and they're also able to feel kind of the pains that customers go through on a daily basis. Because when it comes down to it, the vast majority of the time, customers are reaching out when there is an issue of some sort. So just building that team-wide understanding and having it be on a personal level, something that everybody can go through and understand, I think really does benefit the customer in the long term, because when you have people who are developing the website, but they understand what customer pains are, they're going to develop the website with those pains in mind. So I think it goes further than just the team. I think it goes company-wide. Another thing that I think is something for companies to think about and look at is where customer service, customer experience sits within the organization. Is it a department that reports into the CFO? Is it seen as a cost center? Is it seen kind of quarter after quarter, year after year as a budget to cut? Because if it is, then you're never going to have stellar customer experience. You're never going to have that kind of word of mouth because of your customer service. And I think those 2 things are really important.
What I would do is get together with your team, Sarah, and brainstorm what are all the ways that you go above and beyond for your customers. Put a list of those together and socialize it among your team so more people can really start doing that. And then also, and I know there's an overused word, empower your team to make sure that they're able to do these things on their own. They should be able to handle 99% of the issues that really come up. And if you can handle a concern or a complaint exactly when it happens, and you don't have to pass them on to the next manager, the next manager, next manager, you're going to end up more likely with a happy customer.
All right. So I'm going to teach you how to hire. Actually, I won't. Everyone has different ways of hiring, but I'll teach you what to hire for. But you have to do a little visualization with me, okay? You know the pet superstore Petco, right?
Sure.
So this is really dumb. I'm sorry this is dumb, but it's so dumb that you'll never forget it. Or you can have your money back. Can they have their money back? No, you can't have your money back, sorry. But try not to forget this. Okay, so big wet dog, all right? Take the big wet dog, place it in front of Petco, okay? You got a wet dog in front of Petco. So the 5 things that you should be hiring for are actually personality traits for any customer-facing position. 5 personality traits, and they spell WETCO. Warmth, empathy, teamwork, conscientiousness, and optimism. So warmth just means liking people, okay? That's not everyone has it, but that's a pretty simple and fundamental one. Empathy is more complicated, but it's an extension of that. It's sensing what someone else is feeling, even without them telling you. T is teamwork. So Guy was talking yesterday about how challenging it was to work with, did you catch that undercurrent? How challenging it was to work with Steve Jobs. So the person you're looking for to do customer service not only is willing to solve the issue, but is willing to involve the team to find a solution. So that's teamwork. The 4th one is C, which is conscientiousness. And this is just a broad psychological trait, which means detail-oriented. So this is exactly what Sarah was talking about. If you're totally empathetic and warm and you're like, oh, it's so great to hear from you, Mrs. Johnson, and I totally know how you're feeling. And I'm absolutely going to get with my team and we're going to work on that. But then you're not conscientious and you don't give yourself a reminder to call Mrs., what I say her name was, Johnson back, then you don't have conscientiousness and you're not being a credit to your company. Finally, optimism. What I mean by optimism is what the great psychologist Marty Seligman calls an optimistic explanatory style. So customers, we love them, but sometimes they bite your head off. This has been known to happen, right?
Indeed.
Right. So a customer bites your head off, and there's like 3 responses. You can tell them to fuck off too, right? But assuming you don't do that, there's 2 responses. You can either feel like, oh my God, I did a terrible job. I just not cut out for this position. I'm going to call in sick for the rest of the day. I'm going to go home and I'm going to give up. Or you can think, well, we'll stick with Mrs. Johnson. Well, Mrs. Johnson, I guess she's just not having a good day today. I hope she feels better tomorrow. I'm doing my best. I'm going to dust myself off, come back to work. So that's an optimistic explanatory outlook. And those are the 5, and they spell?
WETCO.
WETCO.
You guys got it.
WETCO. I would say 2 tips, really to the point of before you can have a great customer experience, you really need to have a great employee experience and a great culture. The first being, for us, we found that employee referrals and hiring via engaging our employees to suggest and bring in their friends and people they've worked with in the past that they think that would fit into the culture have proven to be the best people on our team. And we're really big fans of referral as an engine for us to grow our team. Second is simple, the bathroom signs. If you have control of the bathrooms, use the bathroom signs for messaging, and I can assure you it works.
That's great. All right, we have a few minutes for questions from the audience. There's a microphone here and a microphone here. If you all could make your way to a microphone to ask your question so everyone can hear.
Hi, really great. Thank you so much. 2 questions. One, what are on the signs, Yaniv? Seriously, like, what is it? Positive motivation signs in the bathroom, or what's the?
Employees must wash their hands.
No, it's more it's points that we try to communicate via email, and sometimes that gets lost just because the day gets busy for many people. So what we try to communicate is whether it's big company announcements or even training or education, talking about what's going on in the company news, keeping people informed as to what's going on. It's a great opportunity, and people are always there. So
And wash your hands.
Yeah, that's important too.
One more thing. Thank you so much. One more thing. Sometimes I work in sales, and my employee is sometimes they get like, oh, these people aren't answering me, and I gotta like talk them off a ledge, you know. And it's like for me as a manager, I find it difficult. Do you have any tips of like how to have the employee have a better outlook when doing sales that are not working so well?
I think this is a slightly different question. I think the employee has to stop thinking about doing sales and start thinking about educating people, right? You actually can't sell anything to anybody. You have to be only there when people are ready to buy. So the people that are interested in talking with him or her will engage. But if they're not, then you want the next person that maybe is interested in engaging with you. So I think they can't take it personally, and they have to think about educating rather than selling. Just a different mindset.
And I think the other thing I would add is if they can think of it as they're not selling, they're serving, how can I best serve the other person on the end of the phone? Because sometimes that's a buy, and sometimes it's not a buy. Sometimes it's just they need more information. So if they can sort of shift it to how can I serve them, sometimes that will help how they handle a conversation. Over here?
Just going back to the point that you just
Can you
made.
say your name first? Because if we're trying to make a
Sure.
personal connection,
Sharat Chandra Bhargav.
of course,
If that
would
can
be
make
the
a
first
There you
connection.
go, Barry. Have fun.
one. Certainly right. But
Sorry, I had to throw that at you. But what would make a connection is if I were to say that I'm 2 days old into Nextiva, so I just started yesterday. Question regarding what you just said regarding educating customers rather than trying to sell them something when they're not ready to buy. So this kind of resonated with me a little bit because my weak point in a lot of, as I perceive, one of my weak points is that I'm not able to, by the way, I was not hired into sales, by the way, I'm a software professional, so, but I find it very difficult to convince somebody to buy something or to sell an idea or sell a point. So the question is, if there was a scenario where one form of marketing is, and this is also a question for Yaniv probably, one form of marketing is also cold calling. Sometimes you have to do that to get customers. What would be the best way to do that to not piss off people?
Yeah. I don't
Here's
know
the
what to say.
man.
We don't actually, I'm not a fan of cold calling. I think cold calling, with a lot of things we do, and I wasn't there for Guy Kawasaki, but I believe one of the points he made is, don't have your team do things that you wouldn't do yourself.
Right.
And from a marketing standpoint, we're really passionate about, would we be comfortable or would we appreciate this type of marketing if we were in the customer's shoes? And I would say cold calling is something that we're not very supportive of because personally we don't want to be cold called. But I would say that there are things that you can do to warm up the lead and display that you're interested in the customer. Maybe start with a cold email or a social media message and build up and show that you're interested in earning their business and working with them before you just pick up the phone and dial. I believe a lot of people, I'm yet to see cold calling be very effective.
that's the whole idea of marketing, right? Because marketing moves people from being a suspect to a prospect. You want those suspects to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm interested. And once they're interested, then you keep educating, then you keep serving them until they're ready to buy. I'm a real big believer, again, we don't sell anything to anybody. We have to be there when people are ready to buy. That's really what the key is, right? Because people buy when they're in pain and have the money to solve the pain, so you never know when there's going to be enough pain.
One of the things that I do, I never cold call. I'm philosophically opposed to it mainly because I hate being cold called with a passion. So I always, when I have somebody, okay, I found Sally Sue and she's the perfect target, my first objective is not to sell her something. My first objective is to get her to be willing to connect with me. That's it.
Right.
That's it. I'm not trying to sell her anything. I just want her to connect with me. Then my next objective is to get her to have just a conversation with me, not about selling anything, just a conversation with me. So I try to break the objectives down so that it's never, we don't have a sales conversation until I have a relationship with this person and I know that it's an appropriate conversation to have.
Great point.
Thank you.
Question over here?
Hi, my name is John Sagona. You have an angry customer, it's a manufacturer's defect, it's your fault. You listen, you validate, you respond, you offer free stuff, make things right. Beyond that, what best practices can you offer?
So really, the first step is finding out exactly what went wrong. Empathizing with the customer. There are a lot of customer support professionals out there that will tell you to never apologize, to never say that you did anything wrong. That's terrible advice.
Agreed.
Always, own up to your mistakes. Understand that this is something that we did, and we can empathize with the customer and really try and empathize, and then do everything that we can to make the experience right. If this bad experience means that they don't want to work with us anymore, then we're going to push that refund through right away and just make sure that they get exactly what they want. If they want to, try us again, then we'll do everything to make sure that the mattress is right out the door that night and gets them as soon as possible. But basically, not telling them what they should want next, but listening to what the customer wants.
So, boy, I didn't know about those horrible customer service gurus who were telling people the wrong thing. So that's totally wrong. But you should no. What you said is correct. But you need to start out with the emotional part of this rather than the troubleshooting part. So if someone calls and you know so much about your product and what to fix and what went wrong that we often go straight into the troubleshooting. But it's important to take a moment for the emotional part. To give you an extreme example, think of this as what I would call the Italian mama method. So think my co-author on my first book's Italian through and through, not Sopranos Italian, but he's from Rome, Italy Italian. And so we imagine it as his mom. And if you were his mom's little bambino or maybe grand bambino at this point, and you had a spill on the sidewalk, her attitude would be, oh, my poor bambino, this is terrible. Let me take you in. I'm going to give you a lollipop while you, here's a Band-Aid, but first let me kiss that ouchie. Now, you probably shouldn't do that with your customers. I'm just spitballing here, but the legal department doesn't want you to be kissing your customers' knees. But other than that, act like the Italian mama. And if you spent a lot of time around kids or customers, they will push back pretty quickly, and they'll be like, oh, you know what? It's not that bad. Can I go out and play now, Ma? Or if it's a customer, let's work together to find, as you said, the solution they want. But if you take an American courtroom method right away, if you take the president-elect's I'm going to sue you no matter what you said attitude to your customer, the customer is going to push back because they want to be heard, right? We all want to be heard. Now, this apology, I would say in today's day and age, needs to happen pretty quickly because people are also in a hurry. But that's what I got.
Okay, does that help?
Yes.
All right, if we could make these two really quick, I'm already over time and I don't want them yelling at me.
Sure. My name is Manish Rodriguez. I have a question about multi-sided platforms where, imagine Facebook, where you have separate paying customers and the users. So in that sense, let's say a startup with limited budget, which of these customers we should put first? Thanks.
Barry? Social media?
No, I don't have a great answer to that. I think we have much more
Anybody got a
expertise in the
social
panel.
media?
I would
Go,
say
Yaniv.
they're all important, right? I don't.
Yeah, but
had
if
to
you're small
choose.
and you can only focus on one at a time, which should
one
you pick
platform,
first?
one social media platform.
For example, Amazon, it looks as if they have a clear cut. They put buyers first to their suppliers. So when a conflict arises, they're more prone to go for the buyers rather than the supplier. So in such a context, of course, we should take care of both sides, but with a limited...
So Amazon does pick. I mean, this is well known that they prioritize their customers. Anyone here from Amazon? Okay, so we live on an island near Seattle, and we could not live without Amazon. But they are famous for putting the customers first and having sometimes some issues with their employees and with their vendors. But I think and they're a newish company, they're evolving. I think the companies that were born right are like the Four Seasons Hotel Company, where they actually have 4 pillars and they're identical. There we will treat our customers the way we want to be treated, we will treat our employees the way we would want to be treated, we'll treat our shareholders the way we want to be treated, and we will treat our vendors the way we will be treated. And I think that's the better way to go. because you can't prioritize. Because if you treat your vendors poorly, then you've lost a partner. Was that the question?
But I still
Yeah, and
think-
Zappos is a lot. But Zappos is a lot like that. They treat their vendors like when their vendors come in, they treat their vendors like royalty. So they do a really good job of managing both.
But I do think that among your current customers, you have to figure out which are more valuable than others. Because I really do believe that all customers are created equal. It's not just the revenue they bring in, right? It's also, do they buy additional products? Do they pass on how good you are? Those kinds of things, right? You also got to do is look at the airlines. I spent a lot of time on the airlines. They treat the Executive Platinum members a lot better than everybody else for good reason, because we're spending all the money. So I think you also have to figure out which ones are really driving your company.
Yeah,
and
that's
yet,
great.
Aaron, you managed to do that, but never using a financial incentive. Is that correct?
Never use a financial incentive to gain customers.
To differentiate.
To differentiate, yes. So all of our customers, they pay the same amount. I think that that's a case of, I'm not terribly familiar with paid for like systems, but when you have to prioritize one customer over another, that's probably not the root problem. The root problem is probably something else. The root problem is how did we get to this point? How did we get to the point where we need to prioritize one customer over another? Maybe that means making a strategic hire. Maybe that means changing some wording around on a platform so that fewer people do have to reach out. So I think that really any answers to that question are ignoring the underlying issues.
Thanks.
Agreed. All right. Last question.
All right, I'll make this like 30 seconds.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Yamasaki. I'm a student from Northern Arizona University. I'm a senior. And you are right. You're spot on about the whole emotional intelligence thing. A lot of companies, how they're going to be successful is through working with their employees. And,
Get a little closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry. A lot of companies are going to be successful when they're working within their employees, and that's going to gain a lot of value-added traits to them, and then eventually create your businesses. So my question is, what do you say to those traditional selling companies that are more transactional as opposed to relational? What do you say to them? Because there are still companies like that, and speaking on the millennial standpoint, we like those companies that are more relational because we like building those relationships. But there are some people out there, well, I shouldn't judge, but there's some people out there that are just in it for the money, trying to get that quick paycheck. So.
They won't be around long.
I would say they're going to lose.
Yeah, they're not
right?
going to be around very long.
Because if you just transaction, if you're just based on price, it is a race to the bottom, right? People don't want to do transactions. People want to create relationships with companies, right? This is one of the things that this conference is all about, right? Is having a closer relationship with Nextiva. So if you're not going to create a relationship, they're going to lose in the end. You've got to figure that out, even though it looks like a transactional buy, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay, but we got to be careful here, because sometimes you want a relationship with your branch of your bank, and sometimes you could give a crap, and you just have to get in there and out. And we all know this as customers, right? So if you train your employees to treat every customer in every interaction the same, then it's going to be a problem. You got to be reading the customer. You got to give them self-service tools if they don't have a lot of time. It's a little more subtle.
But that's what
But
I mean
that's
about
not
relationship.
transactional. That's not what
A relationship does not have to be a person. It could be emails, right? It could be bots. It could be AI. Amazon, I've never talked to Amazon, but as far as I'm concerned, they've created a relationship with me because of their technology, because they know what I bought in the past. So it doesn't have to be person to person. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you all so much for your
You
time
guys
and
are
attention.
awesome.